Thank you very much, Sandra, and thank you all for having me involved today. I am passionate and committed about collective impact, and I've seen the transformational change that is possible by doing this work in this way. Before I begin though, I'd just like to add my respect and pay my respect to elders past and present, and to thank Auntie Lynette very much for those beautiful insights that she shared. I've been charged today with sharing a bit of an overview about collective impact in Australia, the past, the present and the future, and I'd like to start with a personal story if I might. One year ago, almost to the day, I moved to Kettering. Kettering is a small fishing village south of Hobart. It's about 800 people there. I moved down there with my husband, my 2 Australian sheepdogs. I bought a couple of acres. I'm pretending to be a farmer. My 2 dogs are pretending to be real sheepdogs, rounding up their imaginary sheep. Over the way, my boat bobs in the marina. I look across the D'Entrecasteaux Channel to the magnificent Bruny Island. I'm so privileged. The landscape is not the only thing that is breathtaking about the community of Kettering. Upon our arrival at Kettering, we're invited to become part of something incredibly special. We're invited to become part of something that I'd like to think of as the Kettering factor. And I'd like to draw this thread through the course of my presentation. This community exhibits the unbreakable ties of a group of people united around a deep sense of shared responsibility and connection. First, there's the clubs. There's the dog walking club, the walking club, the swimming club, the running club, the land care club, the cricket club, the sailing club, the chook fancies club for anyone that doesn't have another club and there's no chooks involved. There's a deep sustained support when tragedy hits. There's a great celebration when things go particularly well for a community member. There's the yacht that 6 community members are putting in to buy so that the young people of Kettering can be engaged and busy. There's the party this Saturday night, truly, for the combined Aquarians of Kettering. Everyone's invited. And every Christmas at 8 a.m, there's the Kettering Plunge. 150 to 200 people front up in various bathing costumes and jump off the pier into the Southern Ocean. And yes, although it's December, it's still very cold in Tassie. And all the way, community leaders are standing up and taking responsibility and guiding and sharing and learning together across community. We're lucky indeed, and particularly lucky when you think about perhaps a recent Brigham Young University piece of research which talks about one of the most powerful indicators of a long life as being community connectedness and social cohesion and integration. And that actually is ahead of family cohesion, which is quite sobering and interesting. It's also miles ahead of the impact of alcohol, smoking and obesity on long life. Community connectedness counts. Now my work takes me a long way from Kettering. I work across a range of different social challenges, from disability to child protection, child sexual abuse, educational attainment, youth retention, Aboriginal disadvantage and violent extremism. And I've begun to notice something quite significant happening in Australia in particular. It seems to me that we're now entering an age which is quite different and gaining a sense of maturity around the work that we're doing in collective impact for sustainability. If we were to consider a timeline of CI across Australia, it might conceivably look something like this, and I'd like to explain. I think there are probably 3 phases of collective impact in Australia. In 2011, when Kenya and Kramer took the world by storm by proposing this notion of collective impact, Australia became some of the early adopters, and by 2013, led by some really prominent and influential folk in Australia, Kerry Graham being one of them, we were now suddenly working in a different way. For those of us that have been working using this sort of approach with some of the elements of the approach, we strengthened some of the technical aspects of what this work might look like. And there were many more initiatives which started up and started to use this particular approach, collective impact, as it had been described at the time. In this first phase, we were very busy. We were busy looking at processes and systems. We looked at whether or not we should become legal entities. We looked at the governance structures. We looked at just some of the simple processes, back office. We looked at evaluation. We wanted to know what we should be evaluating and how that might inform our practice. We looked at what the workforce might need to look like, how much money it would cost and how best to apply that money. We tried to develop a roadmap for change and question whether indeed we could do that. And we tried to fervently explore where there were shifts. Could we actually identify percentage shifts in some of these social impacts? We understood that community was central to the work that we did, but we were very, very busy and sometimes lost sight of it. But quite quickly, over the next couple of years, we moved backwards more deeply into culture and more deeply into community. We started to look at community readiness. Which communities were ready? What does readiness actually look like? And how can we build readiness? We engaged in community conversations. We listened to identify community aspirations, to put them centrally into our work. And we began to build movements, sow the seeds, so this work could be broader around single social challenges. This was an interesting period, and it's a period that we're in now and just emerging from as well. This is a period where we were able to gain significant growth. It's all sorts of reasons and ways. We found that we were using the language of custodians. We understood now that this was about long-term intergenerational change. We saw some beautifully organic community-embedded projects moving forward with great innovation as well. And in particular, really interestingly, often some of those that were not attracting the major funding were those that had to become the most innovative. We learned a lot along the way. However, most of the communities that we're working with are not at that catalytic phase of community rhythm, community life. So we needed to think more deeply. By this stage, some of the credible signs that we might be successful at this were becoming apparent. We have increasingly strong patterns and practice models out there. We're able to learn from each other with networks which were able to enable us to accelerate progress. We had increasingly stronger evaluation frameworks. We knew what we were trying to and what we needed to evaluate and how we might do that. There was a broader application. Increasing numbers of initiatives were emerging that were looking at using collective impact.